An estimated 1.3 million people in Iraq are at risk of different forms of gender-based violence. Most of them are women and adolescent girls, according to a report from the United Nations. Zainab Al-Suwaij has worked on rebuilding Iraq's school systems and developing women's empowerment programs.
I met Zainab Al-Suwaij in our Washington, D.C. office.
Let me talk to you about your personal connection with Iraq. Born there, went through some turmoil and left. Can you kind of describe those early years and what it was like?
Sure. I was born and grew up there in southern part of Iraq. I was part of the religious family. My grandfather was a Grand Ayatollah of Basra. And but it was a very difficult time because it was under Saddam Hussein's regime. I was only 9 when Iraq-Iran war started. So you grow up with the fear of the war in the background. So the childhood was not very stable, I would say, because of the war. At the same time, you're having a dictator in power that minimize your ability to live, ability to talk, ability to be who you are. So I was part of the uprising against Saddam Hussein in 1991.
You had the sense that it would go well, that the U.S. would support it. That's
definitely,
not what happened.
Definitely.
How disappointing, and that puts you in a tough spot, right?
Definitely. We were hoping that the help is going to come. So we liberated the cities that we are in. We fought. We helped people who were injured. We helped people who were, we're fighting an army, basically. We were individuals. At that time, the U.S. Abandoned us. And a lot of people were killed, about 250,000 people. And I was lucky to be alive. I was injured and hiding for a few months.
Injured and hiding for a few months. You summarized that in a very short period of time, but that sounds quite frightening.
Sure, I was actually in the street trying to help some people who got injured, and one of the soldiers, Saddam soldiers, shot me. 2 shots, one in the back and one grazed my face. So.
And at that moment, did you think, "Am I going to make it?" Or what goes through your mind?
I didn't feel it at the beginning, and then I started feeling something. I didn't know what was it. I felt something hot in my body, and I realized I was injured. And then they forced us to leave the city. So as we are leaving the city, and I have the injury, my clothes has blood, and of course dirt, and we want to find a place that we take a refuge in. So when we get there, we want water, and there was they shut all the water and electricity on the city. So we started digging for water. And then we saw it was cloudy, so it's going to start raining. So I was very happy. I had something that, to wrap around my body, and took my clothes and put it on the outside so they can be washed by the rain. But the rain came with oil because of the burning wells in Kuwait, the oil wells that they burned. So all the rain came black. So now my clothes has blood, dirt, and oil.
Zainab is the founder of the American Islamic Congress, a social activist organization created to foster tolerance, promote civil rights, and mobilize the Muslim community in the U.S.
You've worked on rebuilding the Iraqi school system and implementing women's empowerment programs. And I know that you've just recently been back to Iraq. Can you talk about that work and how rewarding it is for you, and what are you seeing in that regard?
Well, the rebuilding the education system in Iraq was a big project for me, and very rewarding, as well as involvement in women, empowering women. When I went back to Iraq in 2003, this is the 2 things that I focused on in the beginning. And it was awesome because you are actually introducing a new system. This new system is not like Iraq. Then Iraq had the best education system in the region for many years, but because of the wars and the embargo on Iraq, these things went really down. And the most affected population by that is not our young girls. So you see the family, because of the embargo that they have, they send the boy but not the daughter in the family. So you have a huge population of young girls, uneducated, not going to school, and not being able to understand anything.
Well, that's terribly sad. What needs to happen to change that?
Exactly. So what we did is accelerated learning programs that we combine 2 school years in 1 year and put these young women or girls in this school, because if you pass the age of 9, the government school cannot accept kids. If they pass, then they've never had any kind of education. So we combine 2 school years in 1 year and accelerate their learning, and we turn them back to public schools. I remember in one of the cities that we opened these schools, a young woman, she's like 17 years old, 18 years old, came in and she's like, you know what, can I be in the school? And I said, this is for young girls who didn't pass 12 years old. So you are already 17 or 18. She said, please, my dream, just to learn how to read and write. Please don't stop me from achieving my dream. And I said, you know what, I'm going to let you in the class, but we're not going to be able to give you a degree or anything. And she's like, that's okay. 6 months goes by, and I went back to that school, and I said, oh, Fatima, how are you doing? And she said, can I tell you something? I said, what? She said, I was blind, and now I can see the world because I can read. So that was so rewarding, really touching. At the same time, we refurbished about 4,000 schools. We trained about 150,000 teachers in the country. So it was a huge program. Lasted for, what I was on was 2 years, and then after that continued to another like 3 or 4 years. But it came more of as the Ministry of Education took over. So we handed them all of the work that we have done, and continued from there.
Despite the efforts, according to the UN, in Iraq, some 1.2 million children remain in need of education. Girls and women are affected disproportionately due to socially constructed gender norms, and those who have been internally displaced suffer the most.
Clearly, when you look at Afghanistan and the Taliban regaining control of the country, girls and women end up as casualties. Recently, there was a story about beauticians in salons losing their jobs, and in many cases, they were the sole breadwinner in their family. I'm curious, are you seeing a similar pattern in Iraq where girls and women ended up as casualties once the war was over, or?
Actually, Iraq is different than Afghanistan. Women were waiting for that moment to take over. Many of these women were, majority of women in Iraq are educated and highly educated, and they hold jobs. And part of the program, part of the women empowerment program that I have done in Iraq with others, is to demand no less than 25% representation for women in the new government. So in the beginning, it was not an easy task because no one wants, women to be out there with a new government. There are a lot of boundaries. If it's not government boundaries, it's tribal boundaries, religious boundaries, cultural boundaries, and for some reason, these boundaries apply on women only, no one else. So the day they were writing the Constitution, the Governing Council, I was there with 3 other ladies, lobbying every member of the governing council, the 25 of them, to vote on no less than a 25% representation for women. So every one of them get out of the room to grab a coffee or have something. It's like, you know what? I have a word with you. It's like, Zainab, you're a troublemaker. What do you want from us? And I said, I want no less than a 25% representation for women. And he's like, even Sweden, they don't have that. And I said, we did so many things different than Sweden this year. How about we do the 25%? The law passes by the constitution to have no less than 25% representation, which was a great success in the region because considered the highest at that time. And women started actually becoming in the ministries and in so many different government offices. And the quota says that. So in the election, they have 2 men and a woman in every election list. So it was a great success for women, and so many other things followed that to help women being empowered, training women to be in a leadership position, to be in the parliament, to be in different aspects of the government. It was a huge task to do, and it was successful. I mean, now if you, as I said, I just got back from Iraq, and if you see the, how things are have changed. It's exciting to see it.
According to a study by the United Nations, Iraqi girls who had returned to school said they suffered many challenges, including lack of concentration and feelings of helplessness and vulnerability.
Let me ask, it seems like Iraq is the center of attention, from a news perspective, and then suddenly it's not. So what do you think the Iraqi people would want to hear from the rest of the world right now? And what message would they like to get out to the rest of the world?
The message that I felt in my last visit that they want to get out is that we are here. We're a vibrant nation. We are trying to deal with our daily issues and problems. Come visit us. Come see how we live. Things have changed for us. Yes, there are problems, there are complaints, there are a lot of issues politically in the country, just like any other country in the world. But also they are very excited that they wanted people to come back, want people to see their lives, because what have been seen in the news is all about war, about violence, about destruction, and people want to serve. Even the influencers on the social media, they want us to say, "Oh, we're not going to talk about anything, and bad or anything that it's not." We want people to come to our country and make the judgment for themselves.
Are bystander to hatred, are bystander to discrimination and assaults.
According to the Pew Research Center, Americans were more likely to say they believe Muslims face a lot of discrimination than other religious groups like Jews and evangelical Christians.
It's so interesting, your pathway in life, because at one point there you are, kind of that warrior.
Right.
Now you're the peace warrior in a sense. And then all of a sudden, as you point out, I mean, the difficulties after 9/11, the prejudice, which in many respects have not been erased. I mean, they're still there.
Started being busy with the school and having children, starting a family, until 9/11 happened. And that, like a deja vu, brought back a lot of memories. And it was not an easy time as well. So start, being an American, being a Muslim, being an Arab, a woman with a headscarf, and the time was hard. It's the war that I did not expect that I would see in the U.S. It's really difficult. But still, people have mixed feelings as well. You can see the looks in the street, and people look at you, but at the same time, you get a lot of support and love from people. So I have friends that calls me and it's like, do you want to go shopping or do you want to go to the supermarket? I'll be with you. And you see a lot of people, like I was working in an organization to help refugees at that time. And I was the only Muslim woman there. So one day I entered the office and I saw all the female employees wearing a headscarf in solidarity with me. So that would touch me so deep inside. I mean, it was really, people do not talk about these kind of things. But these gestures actually helped a lot because people are, yes, also, just like I am conflicted with all the stuff that's happening, these people are the same, but they are taking the extra mile to make it better.
And having witnessed all that you have in your life, it's so interesting. And maybe we can end here. It seems to me that you're always looking for those slivers of hope, and you find them if you keep your eyes open.
Right. I'm always optimistic, and I think that it's a good part in every one of us and in every circumstances that we see. And this is what I take with me when I go back to Iraq or any other country that I work or implement program in. I see that hope because I've seen how people's life have changed and how have moved from one situation to the other. I witnessed these things. I try to make it. I try to deliver that voice of hope, peace, and stability to these people.
And we will leave it on that hopeful note. Such a delight talking to you. Thank you, Subadia.